Can you hear me?
Yeah, you good?
Okay. All right.
All right, so we good to go. Going live now. Good evening, everyone. Today is June the 27th, 2023. Most gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you, God, for this blessed day that you allowed us to see. Oh, God, we thank you, God, for the grace and mercy and the gift of waking us up this morning. We ask you, God, that you would just look after all of us, watch each and every view, oh, God. I ask you, God, that you bless my guest as well as tonight and his family. Just let us take away a good conversation, oh, God. Glorify you. We give your name all the praise, glory, and honor. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Yo, what's good, everybody? Let me know as y'all tuning in. I'm just trying to double check now, Coach. Make sure it's showing on your page too. After I get it pulled up on mine. Okay, yeah, I got it here. We got 3 people in here already. Thanks for tuning in tonight. Happy born day to everybody that's celebrating their born days over the week in Barbara Daughtry. Welcome, Miss Roseanne Martin. Thanks for tuning in from California. Yeah, everybody, just let me know as you guys come in. I want to say happy born day to Barbara Daughtry, Laquita Nichols, the twins, Tracy and Stacy. There's a couple other birthdays out there. I want to say happy born day to my favorite sister cousin, Beverly Bergman Tucker, who want to have milestone birthdays on this previous Monday. Actually yesterday. Coach Scott, what's good, Thomas? Big Thomas viewing in, Coach Scott. Coach Scott who celebrated his birthday on Friday. And last but not least, my mom who celebrated her born day on the 24th as well. So happy born day to all of the June birthdays. Shout out to everybody that graduated on this previous week and the last couple of weeks. Shout out to my teammate, Rahul Gary, who's keynote speaker at Westside graduation this past Friday. Got to see the pictures of him and Big Al, Principal Akbar Cook, doing major things there in the city of Newark. So shout out to all of those. And shout out again to the students. You guys did it. You know what I mean? I remember what it was like 30 years ago to be sitting in that classroom or sitting on that stage as a senior, just wondering, like, what's next? Life is about to start all over September. You don't have to be there at 7:30 in the morning. Like, what are we going to do with our lives? So I remember how that was a scary time for me, but I know that you guys got everything within you to make you succeed and propel in life. So just keep on going forward. You know, my condolences to anybody that lost loved ones over this previous week. My prayers will go with you. You know what I mean? If you ever need anything, just reach out. Your boy always here for you. And with that being said, I want to introduce tonight's guest. I want to tell him happy born day again. It's going to be my love tonight, yo. This is coaches. We're going to get into all that a little bit later, but this man was a pivotal part of my life. He's one of the reasons that when my son started playing Pop Warner, I gave back and started coaching because coaching was the last thing in the world that I wanted to do. But I thought about him. I thought about Gary Westberry and the impact that they had on my life all these years later. So I was like, it won't hurt anything to, hopefully get some of that positivity back. It doesn't make, that's one thing I'm one big on that myself. When God blesses us with gifts, whether it be people, talents, or anything else, I think we're supposed to pay it forward. You know what I mean? When God invests the gift into us, I think it's only right for us that we give it back. So I want to thank Coach Scott for being here tonight and introduce him to you all. And what's good, Coach? Introduce yourself to the viewers out there.
All right. How you doing, everybody? I'm blessed and so grateful to be on your podcast that you asked me to be on here. I'm feeling good. And, again, I'm just really excited to be here and have this conversation with you.
No doubt, no doubt. And shout out to, we talked about on the pre-show announcement where I put it out there. Tonight we kind of want to have a conversation about just mentorship, how important it is. Fatherhood, it's the end of fatherhood. Me, my motto, all those that you rock with me. We can't never big our fathers up enough. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's very important, especially within our community, that, we show our fathers some love, especially, fathers that are active in their lives and fathers that want to be active in their children's lives. and not just want to, but actually doing it, going out here working, taking care of their responsibilities, being an example for that child, and you know what a man should be and how a man should carry himself. So you know, even like I mentioned it in you know, Coach Scott is a girl dad. You know what I mean? He's taking care of his nephew and things of that nature there, and all the young men that he sold into their lives as far as a coach. But let's talk about that a little bit, Coach. Like how first of all, when you think about fatherhood, first and foremost, before we even get into the fatherhood, you know, thank God to the God of grace and mercy for keeping our fam, Miss Morgan. You know what I mean? How is she doing?
She's doing fantastic. You know, just to, you know, give you a backdrop on that for those of you that don't know, you know, my daughter was the victim of, my oldest daughter, Morgan, was a victim of a road rage, horrible road rage incident a year ago in April. She was on her way to work, and somebody was backing up the street, a one-way street, the wrong direction, hit a car. You know, she got out to take a photo of his license plate because he kept going. And he put the car in drive, chased after her, and he proceeded to run her over 3 times with his car. And he attempted to run her over a 4th time. And, you know, by the grace of God, you know, a school bus pulled in between and to keep him from driving over her again. Basically, broke every bone in her body, just about, you know, and she's my hero. She survived, and not only did she survive, she's getting her life back. She is in the gym every day right now.
Thank
And I
God.
just tell you, you know, how good God is. You know, my daughter is, she's amazing. You know, that's all I can tell you. You know, both of my daughters, my youngest daughter graduated a month after that happened.
Wow.
And both of my daughters are, you know, they're 14 months apart. They're almost like twins, pretty much. You know, when they were little, we dressed them alike.
Right.
You know, they did everything together, and they still do. And for her to graduate without a sister, it was torture on everybody. So, you know, I have to say that, you know, again, I'm very grateful, you know, a year later. You know, fatherhood is a unique thing. You know, all of us have different levels of fatherhood that are, you know, those that are blessed to be fathers. You know, fatherhood is something that for many years was something that, you know, people just looked at us as providers. You know, we basically came home from work every day and, you know, put food on the table. That's what fathers were looked at, you know, as not as somebody that can be a confidant, somebody that can be a support, somebody that can be loving, somebody that can be a listener. You know, these are things that are key aspects of being a father. But, you know, a lot of the guys in the old days and then some of the guys now, you know, put a bad rep on fatherhood, you know, and all of us seem to, you know, deal with the, you know, with the wrath of that from time to time. Unfortunately, you know, we don't get the same credit that mothers do. But we are very much as important as the mothers are. And, you know, all of us should take pride in our position as being fathers and the masculinity that surrounds us within it. So
like I said, you know, when we talk about mentorship, when we talk about fatherhood, how do you think it helped you as a man, as an individual, having girls, you know, working with us as high schoolers, being around all the testosterone with the football background? How did you have to tweak your approach when it came to girls, so to speak?
you know what, in one way, it was almost a 360, you know, for a large part, you know, of, you know, my daughter's early years. You know, I was a single dad, you know, and it was my 2 young daughters and my nephew. And, you know, the duality of having a young male in the house and two little girls, you know, it's two different ways of raising. You know, you raise daughters and you rear boys. You know, daughters are, it's a challenge because, you know, they need a lot of conversation. They need a lot of, you know, a lot of love, a lot of affection. You know, they need a lot of direction too, but it's a different type of direction than you do with young men. It's a lot more talking than you do with boys. You know, with young men, you just give them direction, you point them in that direction, you tell them that's what they're gonna do, and that's it. With young women, you gotta explain things to them, and you have to be more, you know, understanding, and you have to make sure that they're clear on things. You have to give them a lot of attention. Young women, children, all girls love attention. You have to give them that. You know, it's a very, very challenging thing, because when you're used to dealing with males and you have a high testosterone atmosphere and things like that, you know, it's a lot of conversion you got to do. You know, it's a lot of conversion. It's a lot more gentle talking, a lot more hand holding, a lot more, you know, eye contact. You know, reading, you know, playing with dolls and having tea parties and all those type of things. It's a very different experience. You know, it's something I embraced because I was raised by my mom and, you know, my sisters and things like that, you know, so I understood it, but it also gave you a different outlook on women, because you're starting from the beginning and you see it very different because now you have a young woman in your life that you're raising and you have this uncontested love that you have for them. You know, is so different. It's very different. Young men, you know, you love them too. You love them deeply, but you know, you're raising them to be a man. So a lot of things you want them to be more independent about. So it's different.
Yeah. Thomas said, Thomas Caldwell said you had practice with us.
I did. Had a whole lot of practice, you know, and I got to see, you know, how, you know, you guys are all blessed to have great parents. You know, I remember Thomas' mom, you know, great woman. You know, I remember sitting in her living room and talking to her and trying to, you know, convince her to allow him to go to the junior college that he went to, you know, and, you know, just to see, you know, how wise as she was and, you know, just that she would listen to me and just, you know, think it through and, you know, and look me in my eyes and look at me and see if she could trust me in what I was saying because I was so young, you know what I mean? Because she trusts me, you know, with her son, you know, and this decision. So, you know, I got practice, you know, you know, you guys taught me a lot, you know, even though you weren't that much younger than I was, you know, you taught me a lot, you know, about, you know, decision making, you know, as a young man, you know, you guys were very mature, you know, you were very focused, all of you. But at the same time, you know, in terms of direction, you needed good direction. You needed things that were going to give you, you know, a focus in how you were going to approach your future. You know, and I thought about that with my daughters. I thought about, you know, the different things, like how different would it have been if you had more support education. You know, West Side, you know, I love it to death, but you know, it didn't prepare everybody the same way. You know,
Nah.
and you know, and I knew that, you know, the first rule of thumb with my daughters was going to be, you know, their education. I knew that that was going to be my greatest investment. That I was not going to waver, you know, with that at all, no matter what the expense, what it was going to cost me. I wanted them to have, you know, more options, and that's what it's really about. You know, all of you, you know, are successful. You know, everyone that I have been in contact with over the years, there's very few of you that were not successful. Some of you did not go to college, or some of you did not graduate college, but you did well in spite of that. But, you know, for them to go to college as young women, I wanted them to have more opportunities. I wanted them to have more options. So, you know, putting into the education was, you know, was a no-brainer.
No doubt, no doubt. I'm trying to double check, Coach. I'm not showing it on your page. I'm trying to make sure we get this shared to your page so all your friends can tune in too. I just jumped in and ain't even. You see, shit on this page. Yo, what's good too? I see you out here too. Marquise Campbell in the building. You know, things always want to be difficult when we be trying to do the right thing, but don't matter. Because that's one thing I firmly believe in too. Like, only time I'll be running into problems like this here is when I really feel like it's a good message or a good show, or, you know, people gonna be really blessed. Like, but that's the one thing the enemy don't be realizing. Like, you can't deter me. You can't make me lose my focus. Like, the word gonna get out regardless, because that's what's supposed to happen. So I don't even really trip off stuff like that. I just want to make sure we get it on your page so like your friends can see it as well. So I want them to be able to be a part of the conversation too. You see.
Yeah, people are calling my phone. They're trying to see. And this is Marvin. I'll tell you, this is my first time ever, you know, getting on any podcast or doing anything public at all.
Mm.
You know me. I'm a behind the scenes guy. So,
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I really appreciate you taking out the time to do it as well.
Hey man, no, this is you have no idea, man. I was so excited about this. I was talking about it all night long, all day. You know what I mean? So, you know, I'm real excited about being on here.
Okay. Run this page. Try this one last time because I got you right here. I don't know why it's not doing what it's supposed to do. But we gonna get it. We gonna get it right. Yo, what's good, Julian? Julian played basketball, but he was down with us too. That figured out. I don't know what's going on with Facebook right now. It's not letting me share. Well, it might be your settings too. I might not be able to share a video on your page.
Oh wow. Yeah. I think I might have said that a while ago because I was getting some real craziness going on. You know, people sending me.
That's the thing I don't like about having a public page is like where people, I got to go in and change my settings as well. Or anybody can just post anything to your page. Like, nah, bro. Anything that you want to send it to me on the back channels or the DM, whatever. Don't put it out there on my page because it might not be. It might be personal. It might be something personal. It might be something that me and you talk about. But it ain't like I wanted that to be associated with the brand, so to speak. You know what I mean?
Right, exactly. Some stuff I just don't want
Big
incarcerated.
Westberry,
You know?
Westberry tuning in.
He is okay. He got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
He just said, Scott and your Mark, can you hear me? Now we can't hear you. What's good with big old Westbury tuning in? Yeah, man. But again, like, so let me get this right. You graduated from where? East side?
Northeast side. That's correct.
All right. Down in the neck. Like, how did you wind up at West Side?
Oh, that was Gary Westberry, man. You
Okay.
know, that was Gary Westberry. He you know, he had already, you know, when he came back, you know, when he, you know, finished in the league and you know, Gary didn't try to pursue, you know, the NFL too much further. His mom was sick. And he just got started, you know, on his next endeavor, which was coaching. You know, that was, his second love. And, I was still playing and I just moved back up here myself. And, he called me, he says, man, he had already started coaching. He's telling me about, the team, 2 years before you guys. And he was like, man, it's a lot of fun, Scott. It really scratch your itch, man. You need to get down with me. You need to come over here, man. You need to coach. Gary's always bringing me with him, everything he does. And as you know, my security career, that he was the one that started my security career.
Okay.
He's the one. Yeah. He basically invited me to start bouncing with him, in the clubs. That was my summer job. So everything that he did, he always brought me along. He's my brother by blood, man. I love him. And he brought me into coaching. He told me to come and just volunteer, man. He said, come on, volunteer, Scott. The kids will love you, man. Come out there and work with the running backs and da-da-da-da. And I had never coached before. But what I did know is that my experience, in high school in terms of coaching was not always the best. And there was a lot of people that weren't really qualified, that didn't really play, that didn't have long careers or didn't have any career at all. So, the saying is in life, either you will be what somebody was to you or you will be what you wish somebody would have been. And that's how I pretty much lived my life, coming there and getting involved, the year before you guys, the team before, that year, it opened my eyes to so many things, and the first thing I saw was how much I wanted to fix stuff. I wanted to make things, better than they were. I saw, the same conditions that I dealt with when I was in high school, more public schools, in terms of our facilities and different things like that, it just wasn't the best. And then, as far as, coaching methods, they were old, they were antiquated, they weren't, they weren't up to date, with different things that you guys were doing, drills and concepts. So, Westberry and I, we tried to bring that to you, Coach Logan, well, it used to be Coach Johnson, Brian Johnson. We wanted to make some change. Brian Johnson, we wanted to make some change. We wanted to make some change. Gary, you got to turn your volume off. Gary, you got to turn your volume off. Gary, you got to turn your
Okay.
volume off.
All right.
Gary, you got to turn your
Okay.
volume off.
All right.
Gary, you got to turn your
Okay.
volume off.
All right.
Yeah, because I do remember that, Coach. Like, that's one of the, I remember you said something about us getting like, yo, I do remember that, Coach. Like, that's one of the cleats, like yo,
Gary, you gotta mute your mic. You gotta mute your mic. Gary, you gotta mute your mic. You gotta mute your mic. Gary, you gotta mute your mic.
I think I just did it for him. Can you still hear me, Coach?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right. Yeah, but you made me, you was adamant about that, you know what I mean, with us. Thomas said the same thing. He's like, I remember Coach Scott called me to do a security for a Sweet 16 party. Like, that was one thing about y'all was coaches, y'all was positive male figures and I liked, but y'all ain't just, and it's sad because I seen it when I coached for Pop Warner as well, man. I look at it like, just like police, just like teachers, just like doctors, just like nurses. Everybody shouldn't just get in the field just because they pass some tests or, what have you, just to do that type of thing. You know what I mean? You shouldn't, when it comes to coaching, when it comes to being a police, you shouldn't go in those fields unless you actually genuinely care. You see what I'm saying? Because I seen
that's the number one thing, right?
Yeah, I seen coaches where, bro, like they just out there to get a check. They don't care nothing about, like you say, instilling values with them, proper technique. how to handle yourself, like Coach Trips used to always tell us, rest in peace, have some class. That's the last thing he would say when we get off the bus. Have some class, you know what I mean? Like, we're not gonna go up there and be the knuckleheads from Newark that they think we are. You know what I mean? We're gonna go up here, we're gonna have some class. And that was very important and instilled us kids from the hood, especially when it was like you say, man, you know, I can honestly admit all these years later, bro, coming from West Side where we practice 2 blocks away from the school, we keep all our equipment from, like I said, 1962, 1968 in a shed, and we go up to these Wayne Valleys and stuff, we see 8 batters in a batting cage, you know what I mean? They got a full out weight room that's bigger than any Planet Fitness now on a high school level. You know what I mean? So psychologically, we was already halfway defeated because we like, how can we compete with this? You know what I'm saying? No matter how much we know our playbook, like, it does something to you from the psychological, not necessarily physical. You know what I mean? And there's a lot to overcome for us inner city kids sometimes. So, you know, how have you seen, like, 30 years later, when you look back on, and then what I shout out to West, hopefully West can get back in, talk to him about that and give him his roses as well. But, you know, from what's going on to being like pretty much the athletic director for the city, them redoing school stadium, turf out there now with things of that nature there. Everybody's looking good. Westside done won state championships. Weekway doing their thing. Shabazz is doing their thing. Like, how rewarding is that to you to see this 30 years later that, you know, those tears that we sown in that hard work and just wanting to see people overcome, that it might have not been as quick as we wanted to, but to see that come to fruition. How important is that to you?
Well, first I want to give, you know, Gary Westberry his props and Coach Logan his props. Coach White, you know, those men, it's on their shoulders that the change took place. I can say that it all began with the Pop Warner teams becoming more prevalent. That's number one, because the feeder is everything. You got to have a feeder. You got to have that foundation for all the kids to be able to keep that interest and develop. But then secondary, you know, it has to be men that fully know that play the game on a high level, that understand and recognize other coaches and bringing in talent, and, you know, bringing in the talent of, meaning coaching talent, and in individuals that are not just want to coach, but that are committed, you know, because you could decide that you want to do many things, but it's the commitment that makes the difference. That's what makes you successful. And I think that, you know, for the most part, you know, the commitment, and you know, I'm calling out those 3. You know, there's been many great coaches, but, you know, they were able to win those state championships. They were able to send young men to college, you know, after so many years of having a drought, you know, and they fought very hard. You know, I know what they went through in order to build these programs, to get these young men, you know, in condition to be able to be college athletes, because that's the goal. Like, if you're going to coach, you know, your goal should be for somebody to go and do better than you did, you know, and going to see, you know, Rodney go to Temple and, you know, things like that. And Daquan Wiggins go to, you know, Virginia Union, and, you know, anybody that I'm leaving out, you know, please let me know. But, you know, the reality of it is, man, it was very hard for any of us to get out of Newark, any of us. You know, when in my time period, you know, on. So, you know, Coach Westberry and I got a chance to go as far as we could. And, you know, but, you know, going back to the original question, what you said, like, how did that, you know, seeing things like that, you know, in schools, going to play the suburban schools and seeing how different they are, and having the family support, the fan support, and all of that, you know, how does that affect you? Well, it's gotta, like anything in life, that's gotta motivate you. You know, that's gotta say, you know, it is nobody, you know, I have no one to depend upon but what I have right here. You know, the saying is, don't complain about what you got, because that's all you got. You know, everybody that we had, we did have enough. It's just that sometimes we didn't know enough. the intellectual value in coaching is underrated. You really got to understand the ins and outs of this game because the playing field is equal. We had some unbelievable athletes every single year at Westside. Every year. Size, speed. Oh my God. Like you guys, man for man, like we always said, if we could take any of y'all and put you on one of those suburban teams, you'd be an All-American.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the reality of that is that, you had to believe that. The biggest part of coaching is 90% motivational. 90%. It's just like fatherhood. 90% motivation. You give a structure, you give everybody the structure, the game plan, because you have to have a plan in life. You have nothing. Your game plan is everything. Your coaching in terms of your drills and the repetition that you set forth, for individuals to get better at, doing things with their muscle memory and things like that. And as you equate that to life, the things that how you practice is how you play, and things in life, how you prepare is how you succeed. If you're not prepared, you don't succeed. All these things are coaching. And then, so to go up against schools like that in Wayne Valley, it was about being prepared, and unfortunately, we had so many obstacles that kept, us from being prepared most times because we had personal tragedies that we had to deal with because, where we were and, academic issues and then psychological issues. Some of you guys are going through immense hardships at home.
Yeah.
And you did not have, the support or, the foundation that you needed in order to be able to get through things as a young man. So, it's a lot of factors in that, but it all inverts into life. All of that. You have to be positive. You have to believe that you're going to win. You don't go anywhere just to look around, bro. You got to win. You're there to win.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that's what it is. We went to those schools, and a lot of times, we was looking around because we were seeing stuff that, we were like, wow, look at this, like this, yeah, you know what I mean? But it was deeper than that though, because you got to want to take that.
Yeah.
What you see, and you got to see that, and you got to want to take it back with you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, we went up here with what we have, and we took this.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And that was the mentality that we all have to have. And we have to give that to our children too, because we're not all going to have, the financial wherewithal and different things like that to give our kids everything. But we have to teach them those principles. So.
And you're good, that you are good enough to walk in any room, to step on any room. And that's one thing that I definitely want to thank you for, because when I was thinking about it over the course of the weekend, that's why when I reached out to you, I was kind of excited that you said, yeah, you was willing to do this. But I was thinking about it, like, one of the words that always synonymous when I interact with people and I ask them, what's the one word that come to your mind when you think of me? And it's usually like one or two things. And it's usually my realness or my confidence. You know what I mean? And I like to think that you and Wes played a big part in that confidence, because I remember sometimes on the football field, that's one of the things that I took to coaching myself too. Like, you know what I mean? Like I remember, especially, and it's a little different when you coach in high school versus Pop Warner and Tiny Mike and them younger kids. Like, you know what I mean? The one thing that I did like about that I always took away from you and Wes, because at first I was like, I need the older kids, that way I can talk to them the way I want to talk to them. You know what I mean? I can't necessarily talk to little kids the way I want to. But then I started thinking about it, going back to you and Wes, and the first thing that I thought was like, if I start out at Tiny Mike with the 6 and 7 years old, guess what? They don't have any bad habits yet. So, you know what I mean? I ain't got to get them to learn. All I got to do is teach them a 3-point stand. All I got to do is teach them at the receivers, keep your inside foot up. Just those little things, you know what I mean? Because they don't have any bad habits yet already, where sometimes you get to high school and you get to college and stuff, you're like, well, who coached you your whole life to this point? You know what I mean? So that was one aspect that I liked about it. But I remember, I said all that to say, I remember sometime like with the younger kids, they would always be like, Coach, why are you always picking on me? You don't pick on this one here, and you don't pick on that one. And I would always tell them, and I automatically throw it back to you guys. I said, listen, when your coach is picking on you, when your coach is staying on your behind all the time, you're doing something right. You need to worry when your coach ain't on you like that.
If ain't nobody saying nothing to you, that's the problem.
Exactly.
Either you real good or you real bad. One or the other, boy.
And that's what
but we know
took away from you guys.
But yeah.
But
No, but I wanted to say, you left something out about yourself, man. Out of the two things that you named about yourself, the third thing that was most important about you that I know Westberry will say, and any of your teammates will agree with, is, man, your spirit. Your smile is spirit, bro. Your smile is your spirit. Your spirit is your smile, bro. It's in you, and I see you got that famous picture of Ali behind you.
Go.
And I actually saw that. I saw that fight growing up, and
wow.
I would tell you, I would tell you that that embodies, that embodies your spirit, and so many of you. My greatest time coaching, most difficult and the greatest time was at Westside. West and I, we talk about it many a night. Our memories of, our Rough Rider memories. And, many times, what a lot of you guys did not know, it was a struggle for us because, having played the game on a high level and have seen so many things, and football is like my woman. I don't want nobody to mistreat her. You know what I mean? And you guys were, you were special, and we wanted the best for you. And we saw all the possibilities that you had, and that's really what coach is about, like seeing the possibilities in young men, and understanding what's necessary to get them there, and then having the commitment to do what's necessary to get you there. You know what I mean? Coming early and staying late, and then coming on Sundays like y'all did. Met me in the park after we had them drops in that game, and I was like, look, man, that was the worst thing I ever seen, man. You guys are better than that. We gotta, if you want me, we're gonna meet in this park that Sunday. Remember me, you, Rabu, all us, we went out there and we did our thing. And and won the next game. You know what I'm saying? Keith had like 280 passing or whatever. You know what I mean? The reality of it is that, everything, in life is pressure makes diamonds of dust.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You think about how diamonds are created, all of that weight, all of that heat, all of that pressure pushing up against you for a long time. Diamonds made over millions of years, billions of years, but they are the hardest and most indestructible substance in the world. That substance is something that's unbreakable, and it's so valuable, and it shines. And that's what you want. You want to develop that, man. And, and that was the experience that I gained from you guys, just at an early time period in my life. It gave me a lot of hope. You guys gave me hope. We was losing games by 1 point, 2 points, 12 points. It shouldn't have lost none of them. But it taught me that it's always more to do. You can't just think it's enough. It's more to do.
Yeah, what's good? What's good, Ant? What's good, Eddie, Miss Shakira? Big Five, what's good for tuning in? Eddie said, Big Caddy, that's Caddy, Eddie said, great coach, taught me more than football, life lessons. Thank you, guys. That's for you and Wes. Westberry said, we had great talent back then, but we had to get the players to believe in their ability to achieve and win. And that's actually where I was going, because, like, I can remember those days, like, that's why I was brought up, when your coaches is on you. I can remember sometimes, like, you pulling me to the side, like, yo, look, man, you know what I mean? Yo, you better than this. Like, you believed in me when I didn't believe in myself, and it got me, you know what I mean? If Coach said it, I know Coach, he done showed me he ain't gonna lie to me, you know what I mean? He gonna tell it like it is, whether it hurt our feelings or not. He gonna always keep it real with us. You see what I'm saying? And I'm like, yo, coach, I believe in myself because of what you instilled into me. Nah, Marv, you can make that pass, yo. You can burn that dude. You know what I mean? Come on, man. Look at you and look at him. It don't matter. Like, you should tell us stuff like that. You know what I mean? Forget what the campus look like or that it look like a college campus. They're not on the same level as y'all.
That's right. That's right. You know, you guys were, you know, heads and shoulders above them athletically and, you know, in terms of just overall your ability.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but the biggest issue was just trying to get past yourself.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, Big Five. We going down memory lane, but we got our coach on here talking about just fatherhood and mentorship and faith and things of that nature there, which I kind of want to transition to, Coach, because I don't remember faith like being a big part of your life back then. I can remember that. I can remember, like you said, that Sunday that you were talking about going to the park. I'm like, Coach, I can't make it there on no Sunday. You know, my mom's got me in church, and you like, look, you got to talk to moms, bro. You need to be at that park, bro. we need you there. So,
Yeah.
like, to see you fast forward all these years later, how did you develop your relationship with God and that becoming so pivotal and important to you as an individual?
You know, I was raised in the church. My mother was a soldier. She was, you know, an individual that, you know, she was the daughter of a preacher, a bishop, and she believed that no matter what, she believed that no matter what was going on in your life or whatever, you had to give honor to God at all times.
Right.
And you know, when you, as you're growing up, you stray away from God and you stray away from church sometimes. You know, you fail to, you know, make that connection. You know, you think about God when tough times come. You know, people pass away, things like that. You know, you're reminded of His existence. But when you're young, you know, and you become independent and things are going well for you, you fail to remember, you know, to thank God. Even sometimes your parents too, you may forget, you know, you may be running around and just don't have time for them, don't have time for God. But when enough stuff happens to you in your life, you realize, you know, at times you may have faced death and you face enough disappointment and you face, you see horrible things that maybe nobody should see.
Mm-hmm.
It'll bring you to your knees. It'll bring you to your knees. It'll bring you to your knees in the morning. It'll bring you to your knees at night. It'll bring you to your knees in the middle of the day. And I'm going to tell you, I think the first thing that really brought me back to God was seeing the birth of my child. You know, seeing that miracle of birth, you know, and you know, having, you know, being married to their mother and having that family unit that I always dreamed about and understanding, you know, how different it could have been and it wasn't. Even though it didn't end too well, you know, in that aspect of, you know, my life, but it was for a time I was able to experience it. I got to see where it seemed like things should have been. And I was grateful for it. You know, you know, when your child is on its way here, you know, people say, oh, you want a girl, you want a boy. No, I just want that baby to be healthy, want to get here all right. You know, last Friday was my birthday, you know, and I always carried a different understanding about birthdays and life, you know, than other people because I was one of four boys. My four brothers before me all passed away. My mother lost four sons. And she was told not to have anymore. And they lived and died. They weren't born, dead. They passed away. So you can imagine how hard it was on her. And, for me, to have, been born as a result of her prayers, I always felt like I had a lot to do while I was here. And they gave me more value for life. And then when my child came, my oldest daughter was born, and then my second daughter was born, it changed a lot too with that. So from that point on, I learned, how important it was for me to pray. My relationship with God became stronger. And as my children grew, my faith grew. And now, as my faith was tested at the highest level a year ago. So, I'm in a different place than I was before. I walk differently now, so.
Yeah, Thomas said, Westberry said, the bigger picture is what you all are doing in life. Humphrey is a preacher. Algernon is a student motivator. Marvin, you hosting a podcast and so on. Yeah, like you said, Thomas said the same thing. Thomas said, well, I'm thankful for Coach Scott and Westbury for not giving up on me. Even after they stopped coaching at Westside, they made sure I went to college. That's what I was looking for. I got some around here somewhere. Don't you know, shout out to West, because West out there in the comments, so he's still tuning in. But I still got a real Westside versus Wayne Valley. I stole from the locker room. I committed that. I think the statute of limitations is over. But the reason that I stole it was because me and Whips was going through something at the time, and Wes was like, "Listen, you get the film, I get it to the schools for you." Like, you know what I mean? He was that committed. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Coach Whips talking about, I believe in you cats. Yo, get the film. I showed it with film. Like, Mark, what you doing with that? You told me to get the film. And next thing I know, I was getting letters from colleges and everything else because he took the time out to send that film off and do what he needed to do and you know what I mean, solidify me. So like I said, man, y'all did things for us that we can never go back, give back. So that's one reason I started coaching and things like that. So I could do some of the same things for some of these kids. And now I coached Pop Warner for 3 years, right? 7 of the young cats that I played, they in the NFL now. You know what I mean? Others done graduated college, like you say, the University of Miami, Missouri. You know what I mean? With Roundtree, he's playing for the Chargers now. Like, you know what I mean? And it's crazy to see all these things come to fruition. And I'm like, the first thing on draft night, I'm sitting here because I play fantasy football, so that's one of my little cheat things. I always make sure that I draft on my fantasy team one of the kids that I coached. You know what I mean? Like, I always get them a roster on my spot, but I always go back and think about those days there. I didn't go to college. You know what I mean? I took another route. I went to the workforce and things of that nature there. And, I just think back to that, those, like, I always hold on to those memories. Those days, those bus rides. You know what I mean? Those walks to the park. You know what I mean? Us growing that tree out there at Westside Park. That tree is there to courtesy the Westside football team. But yeah, man, really, I really appreciate y'all. And it's like when you afford it, or being, like I said earlier, when you're blessed to have people that actually care about you and things of that nature, there, it's just that much more important for you to give back. So I want to say thank you, man, because like I said again, these were things that you didn't have to do. You graduated from East Side, you could have went to East Side and gave back. You know what I mean? But thank God that you didn't know, nor did we know, that God had a different purpose and a different plan. And now we're able to sit here and have this conversation and impact our lives like you're doing now. So we appreciate that.
I appreciate you too, man. I tell everybody, man, that, people say, "Oh man, I appreciate what you did for me." I appreciate you listen. Look at Hot Rod.
I had to surprise you, Coach. I had to surprise you.
Look at my guy.
Yeah, Hot Rod.
They said moving, but I gotta stay with Coach Scott. How you doing, brother?
Yeah, I'm good, boy. How you doing, man?
Hey, let me tell you, I love Coach Scott. And don't nobody tell you I love you. I do. All the way, bro.
No
I
doubt.
love you. My family love you. My mom love you. My dad loves you. Listen, ain't nothing but love.
Hey, brother,
What y'all up here talking about, man?
Just the good old days and how he didn't have to do what he did, but he gave back to us. I was telling him earlier, I was like, yo, like you say, 20 years doing what you doing, every security, that was all thanks to him. You know what I mean?
Yo, listen, I'm 17, 18. Cause Scott was like, hey man, what you doing tonight? Nothing. What you doing? Come ride with me. I'm riding with him. He's taking me to New York City, seeing stuff I've never seen before. Like, oh, these big buildings look like a close. I ain't never been in New York. I'm like, oh, okay. Taking me here, taking me there. Put money in my pocket. So I went to school. I went to college. I said, I need some money. I said, what am I do? I started using Coach Scott connections, going back to New York, doing security, all that stuff. Listen, I know people say, yeah, you just doing stuff here and there. Man, I've been to 45 countries doing that. I've been feeding my family off doing security for the past 30 years.
That's crazy, man.
Bought houses, bought cars. Listen, it's been beautiful. Managed, then slid over to managing stuff. You just never know when you put somebody in a direction like that. You just never know what they're gonna do with it. That's all I'm trying to say. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Beautiful thing. You just never know what somebody's gonna do with a little thing you give to them.
Well, you know, not everybody has no fear, has a 400-pound bench press, and can fight at the same time. You really don't have too many cats like that. So I figured that I could get you a little something in between that. I figure I could do something with it. You know what I mean? And all these years later, man, I just stand in the rear, man. I watch you, I watch Marv, I watch Thomas, I watch all of you guys, you know, with all of your success, the different things you're doing, you know, and you know, it's just a beautiful thing, man. I mean, that's what you do it for. You're supposed to want somebody to do better than you. You know, right. I watched you, like I said, your Temple career, Knoxville College, all the different things that you did, you know, as an athlete. And you had the same foundation for being a father and being a businessman and what you have become, you know, for the head of your family. You know, again, you another one. I remember meeting with your parents and talking to them about, you know, talking to them about.
My mom always asked, how's Scott doing? How's Scott doing? It don't matter. Now, see, there's only a few names, only a few names gonna pop up. Marv is one of them. Yours is one of them. So yeah, mom asked about. Yeah, there's only a few names. But,
oh man.
She definitely.
Yeah, man. You know, you and your father.
And now, guess what, Scott? Man. We are OG. We passing down the knowledge now.
Yeah.
I got my son's friends coming over, and I'm trying to drop little nuggets off here and there. They calling me Unc. They calling me Pops. I'm like, damn. I'm that guy now. Yeah. I'm that guy.
Well, you've been that guy, man. Y'all been that guy. You know,
do that though. Y'all really taught us how to do that.
Hey, listen, but look, let me tell you, Brian. Y'all got it. Like I said, you got Westberry on the other end. Y'all got to thank him because Westberry brought me into security just like you. I was down at the Y teaching. I was at the Y teaching self-defense. You know what I mean? To little white business ladies, and for $40, $60 a week. And he brought me up there to the club, got me started doing that. You know, and it changed my whole life with that.
Yeah, I think the first night was Westberry. I think Westberry was the first guy that took me. We all went together at night. I think Westberry definitely with us.
He picked you up for me. He brought you up.
He picked me up in the house. I'm like, yo, this is crazy. I'm 18 years old.
I told, don't tell your mother. I said, don't tell your mother.
Don't tell your mother.
Yeah, because we told you, he said, we told him, we said, man, we're going to make sure you all right now. We ain't gonna put you in danger.
Yeah.
I said, you definitely gonna have to punch somebody in the face a couple of times. We're gonna tell you that right now. You know what I mean? And he did good, boy. He did good.
Still punching people in the face.
Yeah, we punched a whole lot of people in the face.
I'm trying to be more diplomatic
Yeah,
now. I'm more
a whole lot
diplomatic.
of,
I ain't that guy no more. I'm more diplomatic now.
Heard that? Hey, listen, we all ain't that guy, but you know what? We still that guy.
We said, yeah. You're right. You're right about
them
that.
number streets still, we still got them number streets in us, brother.
How's your daughter doing, man?
She's doing great, man. She's doing great. All things considered, she's doing fantastic.
That's
she in the gym every day. She's doing great. Like I said, man, she's that's my hero. That's my hero. You know what I mean?
I kept that story. That's good to hear.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. Thank you so much for asking.
Yeah, because even the Marvin Bennett Jr. Show Nation, bro. I remember the day that it happened, bro, and doing the show that day, like a few days later, and like I just couldn't believe it because I seen that it happened on the street that I used to live on when I was still in Jersey. And I'm like, yo, did this dude like really? Then the video came out, and I'm like, this crazy. Then I found out it's your daughter. Like my heart was already hurt, but then I found out it's like family, and it's like, yo, we had all the viewers out there, yo, we was praying, everybody was believing God for a miracle, and then I think it was like maybe a week or two later, or a month or two later, where we seen the ABC special or whatever channel that was on the news, but it had made national news, man. And like you say, to know that she's still here, man, we can't do nothing but praise Almighty God. Like so many times we think, when it comes to faith and those things, that kind of nature there, but there's something bigger than us. Like what's going meant to be. I remember my mom always asked me things like that there. And I remember when it comes to register for the draft and things of that nature there. And that's something that I just always lived by. You know what I mean? Like for some reason, I guess because of my upbringing in church, I'm like, listen, even when I lived out in Little Rock, Arkansas, and I'm ministering to gang members, the Bloods and the Crips, no matter what I did in life, I always had one approach in that there's nothing that's going to happen tomorrow that God don't allow. So I don't have to operate in fear. Because if anything happens, if he brought me to it, he can bring me through it. You see what I'm saying? So, and my faith has never wavered with that there when it comes to those things there, nature there. I always thank God for right. You know what I mean? Like we ain't just bros, like we bros. You know what I mean? Without blood. It was funny how like Roddy transferred down there to Arkansas Pine Bluff. Out in this way before social media and all that good stuff. I find out, yo, we jump in the van, me and my brother, we go to get robbed. He come to have Thanksgiving with us. You know what I mean? We lose contact for another 6-7 years. Find out he down in Atlanta. Boom, we reconnect, and it's never like we miss a day. You know what I mean? But it's like he said, we giving back now. We those OGs that you and West was, because I can remember, like especially when he was younger, Rodney's son, Lil Clayton. You know what I mean? I can remember the way he would look at me. He showed me respect, but that was daddy friend, right? I became up when he looked up and seen me in the stands for his senior game, his last high school game at home. You know what I mean? I went down to Georgia to beat out. Yo, he came out. Ever since that day, I was up. I wasn't daddy friend no more. You know what I mean?
Bro, what the fuck is you doing? My bad.
He get ready to go to work.
I say you can take the brother out of Newark, but you can't take the Newark out the brother.
Hey, I gotta ride, man. I gotta take care of something real quick, man.
All right, man.
I love y'all, man.
Right, I love you, man. We talk soon, bro.
Yo, what the?
Yeah, I'm about to send him the link again, Ed. Yeah, we gonna wrap up real quick. West trying to get back up in here. He wants to hear something.
Yeah, get him on there, man. I don't know. There was a lot of feedback with that, but this podcast wouldn't be right if we couldn't get him on there.
Yeah. He the glue.
Yeah, for sure. That's he my glue, man. That brother, I don't know where I would be without him. I would tell you. That's the truth.
Yeah, man. But like I said, man, we can't thank y'all enough, man, just for all y'all are. And I that's another thing that I like to think that y'all instilled in us too. Like y'all, even though we might have felt down about ourselves and our surroundings and our situation, y'all was like, yo, bro, we're not doing that around here. We're not having no pity parties. We're not feeling bad for ourselves. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm telling you, and I know I did. I can't speak for everybody, but sometimes I didn't necessarily believe that. I didn't believe that I was better than these kids, that they just had more opportunity than that we did. You know what I mean? But now looking back, especially as a grown man, it's like, man, I see so many underprivileged kids, and that's one thing I try to encourage moms and single mothers and whatnot to get your kids involved in the athletics. You know what I mean? Get them around some positive male figures and things of that nature there, because being a part of that team, being a part of that West Side locker room, like you say, you know, people, I hear that all the time where people go away to college and they become all friends. That wasn't my testimony. My brothers in the locker room there, and those bus rides and everything like that there. And those are memories that I hold dear to my life. You know what I mean? I think that it's cool. Thomas, like, me and Thomas probably haven't seen each other in almost 30 years. But as soon as I started the show, Thomas popping up every single week. Big number 74. He always ride. Like, we still got that brother. We still got the camaraderie. We still in the trenches together. And that's something that y'all stood by us with. You know what I mean? Even with Omar Prince, rest in peace to Omar. Omar passed away. Like, my heart fell out. Like, it's like losing family members. Even though we teammates and classmates, it's like losing family members, man. You know, Ron, Chanel Goodlow. You know what I mean? There's different ones that we lost along the way. Like, I consider it a blessing to still be able to be here and talk about it. And I think that is important, especially when we're talking about football. And like you said earlier, the testosterone and the masculinity. Like Ross said, bro, we don't just respect y'all, we love y'all, man. You know what I mean? And we comfortable in our manhood, who be able to tell another brother, I love you, man. And I think
Absolutely.
that's very important that we, you know what I mean, we demasculate masculinity and you know, I ain't no chump and I ain't doing all that there. Nah, I need all my brothers to know that I care about them. But that's one thing that I like to hold my hat on, is like, when people show up at my funeral, one thing about it, you ain't gonna be wondering how I felt about you sitting in my service. You're gonna know why I rock with you. If I rock with you, even if you respect me and I didn't rock with you, you're gonna know why I didn't rock with you. I don't think that we have enough time to be living that middle ground where playing games and I ain't about that petty life. You know what I mean? You let the people know that what you know, what they did for you, and you give back to them while you still can. You know what I mean? I think that's very, very important.
That's it. I think, you know, you said a lot, man, and just an addendum to what you were saying, you know, the essence of life is making yourself necessary to someone else. You know, that's the true essence of life. Everything on this planet that God put here contributes to something else's existence. And I think that we as human beings are the greatest example of that. We have the most ability to contribute to this world. And the first place that it starts is, you know, giving of your heart, doing it just because, not for any reason. Mm-hmm. You know, all relationships are based on reciprocity in most cases, but it's the relationships that are based on just the fact that you just wanted it to happen, is the greatest of all relationships. And I think that's unprecedented. I think that, you know, what sports is to families, for young men in particular, is it teaches us coping skills. I think that that's something that a lot of young people lack now. That's why they have, you know, high suicidal rates. And I think it's so many different things that are transmitted because of the fact that kids aren't taught how to cope. When you play team sports, you're taught how to cope, and you're also taught how to be dependent on. And that's important. As a man, you have to learn how to be dependent on. You have to learn that you have a role to play, that it is everything. Every role is a leadership. Football is the greatest example because it's the ultimate team sport. It's supposed to be 11 men against 11 men, and you're trying to create at least one one-on-one. That's the concept of football. And that one-on-one, you must win. When you have an opportunity, when the opportunity shows itself, You have to take it and you have to win it. And I think that that's ultimately what all of this is about. I think that being a father, being a mentor, being a coach, and having faith in God and in ourselves. Sometimes, God wants us to believe in ourselves, and we don't. As they say, talent is a misused blessing. I think that in so many cases, especially with our beloved Rough Riders, we had a lot of young men that had talent and they misused it. They did not do what they were supposed to do with their gifts. I think many people do that. And I think that as coaches, as mentors, as fathers, we have to identify talents in people, in our children, in who we coach, and in our neighbors, whoever we can, and let them know how special they are and tell them what their abilities are. I think that when I try to coach, I try to point out this one thing, and I realized this when I was a child growing up. I realized that, I was never the best of anything. I was never the number one this or whatever. I was never anything that was being talked about. I never received any awards, any trophies, nothing. And at the same time, I was never told, I was never told that I was the best at anything, meaning I was the best colorer, the best blackboard cleaner, the best, the fastest, the tallest. I was never that. I was never told that. Every person on this planet has to believe that they're the best at one thing. And I think that as a coach and as a mentor, the responsibility is to identify that and point it out to you and make you believe it, so that you can grow so you can jump first and grow your wings on the way down. Like that's what it's supposed to be about, and I think that, being in those positions for all of us as a father, as a mentor, as a coach, whatever your position is in this life, take pride in that. Take pride in building somebody else up. Take pride in guiding. Take pride in leading, and look forward to it. Embrace it. Make someone believe in themselves. Inspire them to be more than they already are, and to be all they can be. And that's pretty much all I have to say about it, man. Thank you so much for giving me this chance to talk.
No doubt, no doubt, no doubt. What's good, Big West?
Yeah, after an hour of trying to get on, I finally got on, man. Incredible, man. But yeah, Marv, I'm glad you're doing this with Coach Scott, because he has always been a tremendous person in terms of his give back to young students, both male and female, and he really exhibit the characteristics that I thought was very good, and that's why I had asked him to join me in coaching, because I recognized the talent we had. And like I said in the chat, it's just really getting the kids to believe in themselves, because I knew that once we can get y'all to believe, y'all can achieve anything you want. And I use the content of the Bible. In the Bible, the word fear is used 365 times, which represent one fear a day. But one thing I know, that if you can accomplish fear, then you can accomplish anything you want, because it would be nothing to stop you. And that was the thing that feared a lot of people. And I knew, having a person like Coach Scott to join in with me, that we will fight that battle together to help young people. And it's been good. We got some guys that we love and they love us.
And I'm one of them. I'm one of them. I'm gonna forever be pretty boy number 10, but to this day, it's not like, yo, money making Marv.
Yeah,
yeah. Favorite nicknames given to me. That came from you. Money making Marv.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, I mean, it was just it's an incredible experience. It's an incredible journey, and I think that any person who put their time and interest in helping other people to develop and grow, that's the best thing in the world. And if you do it right, you get this type of stuff. You know, guys coming back 30 years from now and want to interview your coach. And I'm like, wow, man, this is great.
Yeah. Because that's really what you got. That's how much you guys really mean to me. And I think that is important. Like I said, I don't want to say these words at one of you guys' homegoing service. I don't want you to be wondering what happened to Marv. No, listen, I feel like it's my duty to come and find you guys, let you know, look, nah, Wes, you made a difference. Yo, sorry for all the headaches. Sorry, Coach Scott, for what I didn't listen, but thank you for not giving up on a brother. Thank you for seeing something in me that I didn't see in myself. And like you say, it's his own reward, bro. That you can't put money on things of that nature there. Like I said, I could never put a price tag on looking to see the look on Rodney's, one of my high school teammates, his son being at his senior year, like, dude, he came to support me. Like, just to see that look in his eyes, you can't give me an amount of money to take that away from me. You know what I'm saying? And that's what it's all about, because you guys believed in us and you stayed with us, you stuck with us, and you instilled that in us when we didn't necessarily know that we had it in us all along. So I appreciate y'all for that, man. And like I said, words can't say it enough. Big Thomas said, Big 74, love you, Coach Westberry. What's up, D? He said what's good stuff. But yeah, man, it's definitely important, man. And like I said, I found myself giving back, and like Daniel, he's down here. He's from Jersey too. He's down here coaching in Pop One and stuff like that. There, I found myself, even though he wanted me to, I'm not going back into coaching full time. I'm out there going and showing up to have practices with him, like his Coach Scott. Hey, listen,
Right.
Hey, let me tell y'all receivers real quick. You know what I mean? Always listen to your coach, but I'm about to give you some gems right now. Never forget this. It's gonna take you a long way. You know what I mean? And they're like, yo, who's over there? But they trust me enough to see the way that the kids respond to me. Say, yo, all right, this dude, he good. You know what I mean? And like I said, that comes from y'all, because y'all was the perfect example. Y'all taught us how to give back. Y'all taught us how to talk to kids on their level. You know where they at. Don't be afraid to keep it real with them. I always try to tell people too. One of my favorite memories of you, Wes, was I'll never forget, you were trying to instill audibles. This was before we were supposed to have to work during the season. He always back up, because I showed him with some shoes. I ain't even wear no sneakers, no nothing. I had some shoes, and you was like, yo, all we gonna do is you just say a color and a number, a color and a number. Here I go, Ivory 102, Ivory 102. You ain't even say nothing, but all thing you said was, yo, just start running, man. Just start running. And you had me running the rest of that practice. Yeah, I learned that day, yo, the laugh ain't always worth it sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, it was just some crazy things going on, but it was good and fun because I don't know if Ian, Coach Scott remember this, but I said, you always got to give a kid a special name because it will carry with them for all their lives. Yeah. And so I know Rodney is off, but Rodney was just a young, good, talented kid. And so I wanted to use the word Hollywood, but then I start calling him Holly Rod. And that's how he got that nickname, boy. Let's go there, Holly. Do your thing, man. So
hey, Holly Rod in the building.
You know, Algernon was Crazy Horse.
Yeah.
Oh my God. We had some and then Coach Scott and I took that everywhere we went. We start naming kids
everywhere,
a certain way, whatever they were, try to give them to make it fun, because that was what it's all about. At that young, tender age, it's about still having fun. Don't make the game not fun for
you. Yeah. That's very important.
Yeah. We definitely have fun. I'm gonna tell you that right now. You know what I mean? I know, like I said, man, it was tough. It was tough losing. It's tough going through all these different things that we experienced, but, to have the camaraderie that we had with you guys is always going to be special. I mean, when you guys called, when we had that Zoom call during COVID, man,
Oh man, that was beautiful.
I might have cried for about 15 minutes after we hung up because it touched me so much that you guys would think that much of me and of us to call and just spend that moment, and all of us, me sitting in the house by myself, like that, it touched my soul, You never know, the influence that you have on anybody. The intent was just to be good. The intent was just to share. The intent was to help you become the best. Hopefully to watch all of y'all play on TV one day. That was the goal. And in that, we established some lifelong relationships, friendships with you guys, man. And I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world.
Yeah, and don't get ready to get touched again, because we definitely gonna have another reunion show. We're gonna definitely get together with all us to get on here again, and I'm gonna definitely make sure I plug you in with that. Hey, Thomas said though, he said that Joker went to my job at McDonald's and said Thomas will not be here at work today. He got football practice. He said, Wes, you still owe money for missing that day of work.
He won't be here today.
Wait a minute. Thomas wasn't at practice. They said, wait a minute, Thomas got a job here at McDonald's. Said, what?
Wes just disappeared for the fit.
He said, Thomas, what you doing? You don't even look right working in there.
Because those are the type of things that you can't coach.
My God.
It is all these years later, 30 years later, he remember that. So guess what he gonna do? When he see that same thing in a 7-year-old or a 10-year-old that's playing with his son, he gonna give back and reciprocate that same thing because it was shared upon him. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. That's good.
That's the important thing. But yeah, Wes, I'm gonna let you get ready to close out. Then Scott, you can say whatever you want to Wes too. Before we get ready to get up out of here. But I just want to thank both of you guys for taking out the time to do this. It's always a pleasure and an honor just to be able to sit here and chop it over my coaches, man, because like you said, I can't never express it enough how much you guys mean to me. You know what I mean? I like to think that I'm the man that I am today because of different lessons that you guys taught me through the game of football, not just about football, but about life and everything else. Like I say, me and Rodney's still my right-hand man. Me and Rodney talk once a week, you know what I mean? Like we still, that connection don't nowhere, you know what I mean? And it's like, it's an honor, the privilege to see Rodney doing what he's doing, like he said, 45 different countries. Not states, but 45 different countries doing the security. But the reason he entered the security is because something that you guys taught him or gave him opportunity even back in high school. You know what I mean? So it taught him how to feed his family. What's the old saying say? If you give a man a fish, he doesn't have a sandwich. But if you teach him how to fish, he can eat for the rest of his life. You know what I mean? And Rodney took that to heart. He's still doing security because of the opportunity that you guys gave him, and it changed his life, not just his life, but his family's life. So we thank you guys for that, man.
Hey, man, listen, again, I just thank you guys for, again, just receiving what we, tried to give to you. We just wanted you to be better, and you guys were. Right now, Wes and I, if we go to any games, we sit in the bleachers, we watch, and we don't criticize. We just watch, man, and we enjoy the good things that we see. And that's what we're doing now with y'all, man. We in the bleachers, man. I check you on Facebook, man. I see all the wonderful things you're doing. That's why I watch Facebook. That's why I'm on Facebook. I'm on there so I can receive all the goodness that you guys are, putting out here in the world with your families and the things that you're doing for other people, and it's your turn. The scepter's in your hands now. we're not old men, but we're not young men. But at the same time, you have to learn how to give that energy and let somebody else, move in your footsteps. And that's what you guys are doing. I think that this is a wonderful thing that you're doing with your podcast, and I can't wait to see how that grows. And again, giving me the opportunity to sit here with my best friend Gary and talk about what we experienced with you guys, and then how things can get better. You know what I mean? So thank you so much, man. God bless you for it. I appreciate you.
No doubt, man. And it's like, I'm emotional now because, like I said, it's something that I preached throughout my life. And I'm a firm believer that people don't care what you know until they know that you care.
Mm.
And that's one thing that's something that y'all taught us early. We knew it wasn't y'all wasn't out there to get a check. Y'all wasn't out there because y'all had to be. We knew that y'all cared about us, man. So I thank y'all again, man. That means so much to me, man. But people don't care what you know until they know that you care. And that's one thing that I can touch for all of me and my teammates. We knew that y'all genuinely cared about us and our well-being, and that we could become the best men that we do. So that's why we do some of the things that we do now to try to make you guys proud. And it's good that it's paying off. It's paid dividends, man. So I appreciate y'all again, man. What you got, Weston, closing us out, man?
Well, yeah, Marv, once again, just to reiterate the point that Scott gave thanks, and, all glory be to God that he was able to, talk on your podcast, to reach out to our friends and family. And that's all we ever wanted to do, was keep that connection. I mean, me and N had a bigger relationship than just football. We stuck together. Football was one of the things kept us together, but we stuck together beyond that point to continue to help young people grow and develop, like I said, and I think we're going to do that to the day we die. That's just one purpose that God has instilled in us. So we're thankful for that, and just back like we did back in those days. I remember I used to get out there right after school, while y'all was in the locker room getting dressed. I used to set up the whole football field because I wanted each and every one of y'all to have that real professional type experience.
Yep.
And that's just the way we always did it. We never wanted to provide anything less than the best for you guys, and it's paid out, because I watched your class, period, man, and those guys on football, they all were pretty good, man. Even when I went down to Goodlow's funeral to speak and share with his father and his family, it was like, we try to instill nothing but the best in him. And even though his life was cut short, he was still a great person. And so we should never forget that. Every one of us will make mistakes in life, but long as you keep believing in yourself, you can get better. And that's all we ever wanted.
Yeah. And love people and accept people for who they are and where they are. You know what I mean? Because just because your situation is this today don't mean that it's always going to be there. But there's nothing that none of my teammates could ever do that I say, you know what, I don't rock with him no more. I'm going to always be there for my teammates regardless, because I think that that's what it's about. You if you could be there during the good times, you need to be there during the rough and tough times as well. You know what I mean? That's what real love does. That's what real brotherhood does. That's what real teammates do. You know what I mean? And like you say, I think that's a testament of you two guys, because like you said, here it is all these years later, you guys are still rocking together. Me and Rodney still rocking together. Thomas and Keith, they still get together. Thomas and Rodney, I seen Thomas put his comment up about the pit match. Them and Rodney got to get together down there in Georgia. You look at Al and Rabu, both of them at Westside graduation together this weekend. You know what I mean? So, man, listen, like you say, and it's not just because it's us, but we definitely had D1. We definitely had pro talent. I tell people that all the time. I'm not ashamed to say it. I don't think that I'm crazy. I know I could have made the league. Like, not that I know I could have made the league. Like, literally, wouldn't have been no household name, I could have definitely made a special team. One thing y'all told me was, yo, use that speed, be the first one down there to get that tackle. I remember patting myself after Renee Thompson had played for the Giants. People outside of Giant fans, they don't even remember who he is. But I was like, yo, you know what? You can make a living just being on special team. They ain't got to know your name. You know what I mean?
You know what I mean? So hey, bro, and that's a fact. I can attest to that. But
I thank y'all guys again, man. Definitely stay in contact. I got both of you guys' number. Like I said, we're gonna do another football show reunion sometime either July, which is pretty much here now, or in August. I'm gonna definitely get y'all the information for that there, so y'all can be a part of that as well. But I think it's really important. Well, I think it's important for me, as well as all of us, like to use these type of platforms. Like, we got so much stuff out here nowadays, and with we can go out there and see all the negativity and all the drama in hip hop and the streets and all this other kind of stuff. The lady in Chicago having her son go down there and kill somebody last week or whatever that happened. And we got all these different outlets. I choose to use this platform for the opposite, to do positivity, to give back. You know what I mean? To let everybody know it's not about getting to superstar status and having a whole bunch of celebrities on here and all that type of stuff here, which I'm not going to deny that either. I'm not going to negate myself of that. But I think it's always important to keep these shows like this here and have these shows where we can interact with one another and catch up with one another and let everybody know while we still can what you've done to us, what you've done for us, what you mean to us. Because when they gone, they gone. You know what I mean? And I think that it's very important that we let you guys know this here stuff that there. So like I said, bro, we might have been headaches sometime, but guess what? Know that we was listening, bro. We was listening the whole time, man, and we're reaping the benefits from it now. So thank you for sowing into us, man. We can't. Hey, thank you and salute to you guys, man.
Thank you, Marv.
No doubt, man. But with that being said, man, we're gonna get ready to get out of here. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. You saying something, Scott?
Yeah, man. Again, bro, thank you so much, and love you guys, man, and God bless all of you, man. Appreciate you bringing me on. Can't wait till the next time.
All right.
Good.
No doubt, man. Love you guys, man.
All right, brother.
All right, everybody out there that's tuning in, thanks for tuning in again. If you haven't already, subscribe. Go on YouTube. It's the Marvin Bennett Jr. Show. Subscribe to the channel. You can watch previous shows. The show that we was talking about, that's uploaded on the old channel, on the YouTube channel as well. And I thank you guys for the support. Just keep on rocking out with me. We're going to keep on making this positive thing happen. We're going to keep on growing together. And as usual, in signing off, DeAndre and Life should know that Daddy loves you intentionally, but I also love you unconditionally. Next week, peace.
Peace.